Well, hi, hello. How are you guys doing? Welcome back, of course, to Rule of Two Review. Today, we're going to discuss some of the pretty interesting and eye-opening quotes that came from EA recently about the Nintendo Switch. So we all know that EA is a very big deal. They're one of, if not the biggest third-party developer and publisher in the video game industry. And we also know that their relationship with Nintendo over the last couple of years has been slightly rocky, I guess at best you might be able to say. And with the advent of Nintendo's brand new console, the Nintendo Switch, seeing how everything played out with the Wii U and the fact that it really struggled to keep third parties on board, and then of course a lot of consumers struggled to stay on board, it's interesting when you dissect the situation around how the third party companies are going to really be perceiving the Switch. We're kind of still waiting to really understand that. I've talked about that a few times myself. And of course, how does EA fit into this whole conversation? Well, that's kind of an interesting one, especially because we all know that last week at Nintendo's Tokyo reveal event for the Nintendo Switch, Patrick Soderlund, who is the executive vice president for EA, thank God for my notes I have right here, he of course was present at that event in Tokyo. And it was exciting for me to see that, not so much because I love EA, I like them. I don't love them, but they're fine. And there's actually a lot of their properties that I do get very excited about. And it's a big deal not only because, oh my gosh, EA is there, but because of who they are within the third-party realm and developing industry of the video game industry. And the fact that he was there in Japan to talk about doing something with the Nintendo Switch. Of course, what he ended up announcing that day on January 12th was nothing more than FIFA, which is in and of itself a fairly big deal, I guess. It's their biggest brand, which of course he's talked about since. And so I was like, okay, well, it's cool to see EA there. It's cool to see Patrick Soderlund there. It's kind of too bad they're only talking about FIFA. I want to hear about Star Wars games. I want to hear about Mass Effect and other BioWare games. And instead, they were just giving us this one sports brand. I mean, they didn't even mention Madden, which was surprising. But then again, it was also in Japan, where the NFL really doesn't have a presence. So I was like, okay, well, it's cool that EA is there, but what does this really mean? Now, a couple of days ago, of course, since the reveal and over the weekend when a lot of Nintendo's hands-on stuff was happening in New York City, he was actually interviewed, and he had some very interesting quotes about EA's approach to the Nintendo Switch. He had some, it was a very PR-spun sort of interview in the sense that all of his quotes are very positive. He had a lot of glowing things to say about Nintendo's approach to the gaming industry, their innovation, how when they're really on their A game, they're doing some of the biggest things, and they've motivated all of today's companies to be who they are. And it's great to hear him say that stuff. Again, it's really just the PR business suit of EA that's saying that, but it's still nice stuff, and it is all really, for the most part, true. But some of the other things he talked about, there's really just one specific quote I want to bring up to you guys that I think is a little bit telling as far as how the third-party side of the video game industry is viewing Nintendo and the Switch right now, basically how very cautious they're being. Like I said, he said a lot of great things about Nintendo and the Switch. And when it came to developing and bringing games to the Nintendo Switch, the biggest thing he said that I took away, there's one quick quote I want to read to you guys. He said, quote, "We have the benefit of being a platform-agnostic company. We will be at whatever platform the consumers are. New hardware is always a positive for our industry. It allows us to push forward." So there you go, pretty straightforward seeming at first, but really I kind of took a lot away from that. Two sentences about Nintendo and the Switch. What is EA looking at? And really what this is saying, guys, is I think something that's probably a shared sentiment by the larger third-party developing industry of the video game business. And it's that, hey, all we're really saying is you may think that there's more politics or bureaucratics behind when we decide to do this, or maybe, companies just hate Nintendo, or maybe Nintendo's just piss people off so they don't want to work with them, or we don't want to work with them, or whatever. And I guess we can't confirm that none of that's true, but really what I think this is saying is it's as simple as really a lot of us probably thought. It's about the money, it's about the sales, it's about the numbers. All he's saying is, hey, you may think that there's all these, it doesn't have enough graphics or power, or the controllers are weird or whatever, and that's why EA hasn't worked with Nintendo. All he's saying is, hey, when Nintendo sells, we'll be there. When the numbers are there from Nintendo, we'll be there. There's nothing else really holding us back. I guess, with the Wii era, there was the power conversation a little bit. And of course, the lack of a hard drive for the Wii U. But I think that even then, EA could have looked beyond a lot of those things if the numbers were there. The numbers were there for the Wii. They weren't there for the Wii U. And so we saw EA and a lot of other third-party support slip away. Now, coming up to Nintendo's new console, the Nintendo Switch, there's a lot of hype and buzz around it, mostly positive, but there's still some questions. We haven't seen a lot of third-party stuff yet. And he's just saying, you guys, hey, if Nintendo sells, if people buy into it, he's almost, I think, speaking to the gamer and to the consumer and to the Nintendo fan. He's sort of with a little bit of a wink and a nod saying, hey, if you guys buy it, we'll make Star Wars and Mass Effect for the Switch. That's what he's saying. You know, Nintendo, sell this console, sell this product, get it to people. To the gamers, buy this product, find out why it's a great thing to own, and go out and spend your money and pick it up. Because if EA and other huge companies like Activision, like Rockstar, you know, Atlas, Sega, whoever, if they see that this system is in people's homes en masse, they're going to feel a lot more comfortable taking the time and spending the money and energy to make a lot of these games that we maybe want to see on the Nintendo Switch. It's as black and white as that. As much as we all, and I'm repeating myself here, but I think it's an important point. As much as we all want to think and theorize and wonder about, oh, shitty companies are just being shitty to Nintendo, or, oh, Nintendo's dumb and they've pissed people off because of their dumb old school ways, and so now these companies don't want to work with them. There's for sure some truth to both of those, but I think that even beyond those two elements, those two sentiments, is the bigger picture of, hey, when the numbers and the sales are there, that's when those companies will find the time and the resources and the ability to make whatever games they feel make sense for that audience. It really is just a numbers game. And unfortunately, as much as I love the Wii U, we all know it didn't perform. It didn't sell very well. 13 million units in 4 years, and here we go with the Nintendo Switch trying to wipe the slate clean. We're done with the Wii brand. We're done with the Miis. We're done with the cutesy kidsy kind of stuff. And Nintendo's trying to rebrand themselves in a specific way. And Patrick Soderlund is saying, hey, here at EA, at the biggest third-party developer and publisher in the video game industry, we are happy to support the Switch with one game, our biggest brand in FIFA. But if you want the rest of that stuff, we know you want your Mass Effects and your Star Wars. Well, when the sales are there, we will be there. But until then, we got to kind of take a hands-off approach. And it pains me to see that, and it pains me to admit this, but it makes sense. And, you know, I've expressed many times I was very disappointed in a lot of the gaming public for not picking up on the Wii U, a system that I think was great. So I have to say, it's up to Nintendo to sell people on why this system is great. I've played it, so I believe it's great. But beyond it being up to Nintendo, I think it's also up to gamers to think outside their box. And I talked to some people who are like, oh, it's just more motion control stuff, and it's just more of this kind of stuff. It's more of the Nintendo stuff. I want it to be no motion. I want it to be this kind of power and this and this and this. And all I can think of is like, God damn it, you have two systems that already do that. You really want a third? I don't think people who say that even truly want a third console to do the same thing. Nintendo's trying to sell you on a different experience. So it's up to gamers to pay attention and realize why a different experience as opposed to a third clone is actually valuable, especially when it also plays Nintendo's fantastic, top-notch AAA games. And so at this point, I don't want to continue to beat a dead horse or repeat myself as I tend to do, you know, and just kind of go over the same topics to drive home the point. I feel like hopefully a lot of you guys probably get it. I appreciate what Patrick Soderlund was saying. I see where EA is coming from. EA has done some real shit business practices in the past, and I'm not sitting here trying to give them a pass, but I do want to play their Star Wars games and their Mass Effect and BioWare games on my Nintendo Switch. I just want that. And so hearing him sort of tease us and sort of, like I said, you know, subtly tell the gaming public, like, hey, you got to buy this thing if you want to see our games on this product. I like it. I like what he's doing. And if you read the rest of his quotes, I'll link the IGN article below. If you read the rest of his quotes, he says, like I said, very glowing and praiseworthy things about Nintendo. He's very kind to them. He says things that I think, although it's corporate speak, are fairly true. And I do believe he grew up playing Nintendo. And I do believe a lot of what Nintendo did inspired EA to become the company they are today. Or at least the good side of EA, not the shitty side. So, I don't know. I'm going to end this here. I kind of, like I said, I just like what he was saying. So you guys tell me what you think. Are you just super like EA is the worst and so I don't really want to care or listen to anything they say? Or do you kind of agree with me that what he's saying sort of makes sense and we can kind of hope that the sales of the Switch are where we want them to be so that companies like EA will jump on board and give us those games that we want to play on our Switch alongside our Marios and Zeldas and Metroids. What do you guys think about all this? And Patrick Soderlund from EA's quotes about the Nintendo Switch. Thanks, of course, as always, for tuning in, guys. This is Rob, Overruled to Review, and I will catch you next time on another video.